Welcome to another Crudely Drawn Conclusions with David and Mike. How you doing, Mike?
That's good. I was debating on whether to put on sunshades like Tim Dillon so I could really feel the muse, but no sunshades, sit in my own tiny bedroom that I call an office. I'm doing great, by the way.
Yeah, 10 o'clock at night, sunshades on, cup of coffee. Nothing, no better way to do this.
Cup of coffee. Yeah, I already consumed half a mug.
There you go.
I'm a fucking rebel. Let's do this, man.
I love it, man. Well, good news. I made my coaching debut tonight. I got thrown in. Had to coach my 6-year-old girl's soccer team. We signed her up for a league. You know, I don't know if y'all do this, but she joined soccer, first time ever playing, and first day of practice, we were informed our team doesn't have a coach. It's like, why did we sign up here? So anyway,
yeah.
I don't know if I'm the coach, but I volunteered today. I've never played soccer in my life. So yeah, here we are.
But okay, it's like 5 or 6-year-olds. They're running up and down the field. I've seen this before. Basically, everyone's just going to be yelling, kick it. Kick it,
that's
repeated,
right.
Just repeating it over and over again. The concept's very simple. There's a net on one side and a net on the other. And then they just kick it back and forth, and they sometimes, maybe once, make a goal. And I mean, once you've had this little taste of power, it's going to be hard to give it up now anyway.
That's true. And it's funny because I was actually a little nervous going in. I knew there was a chance that my number was going to get called. So I watched a couple YouTube videos, some drills and stuff like that. But when I showed up, a mom informed me, no, there's a lesson plan. Somehow she got her hands on a lesson plan. Yeah. She got her hands on one, and so she kind of.
What does that mean?
She lined me out. I guess this thing with teams not having coaches is kind of a regular thing. It happens a lot.
Sure.
So the almighty whoever sends out lesson plans, and one of the moms got it. So she told me, first thing.
Oh, God.
we line up 8 cones, and they're going to dribble. They're going to weave in and out of them, dribbling.
No.
Yeah.
No, they're not. You're running that fucking shit show. They're going to do what the hell you say.
Oh,
because
exactly.
if you're going to coach that team, you're going to coach that team the way you want to coach that team.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So next time, that's the plan. And I was a little nervous going in. Felt good at the end, but it's great. Like it's kind of weird being nervous, and then the 6-year-olds show up, and they're like, they're chasing around butterflies and like totally distracted.
Yeah, they got like half a brain in there.
They could care less about anything. And the funny thing is, we told them what to do, and they're kind of doing that, and they probably just think, I'm like, they don't think anything really, But anyway, proud moment for me.
Well, that's good, man. I'm sensing that you're going to like this little bit of a coaching experience because you always were a sports guy, so you kind of had it on your mind anyway. You're already studying the game before you got there. You're ready to go. And then you had this interloper come in, this ne'er-do-well, or this, a well-meaning soccer mom. But she came in and she wanted to line you out, to give you the official playbook. You got your own fucking playbook. You're going to run by your own goddamn rules.
Yeah. And, Mike, you and I have talked about this a lot. One of my default settings is to be, what's the word? Like, where I let people boss me around, kind of. Like, that's my first instinct. Like, when COVID first happened, we got to put mask, so I was, like, doing the mask thing. But, like, 5-6 months in, however long it was, I really didn't want to do it anymore. I was, like, over it, but I kept doing it. Mm-hmm. And we talked about it one time on the podcast. I walked into a grocery store. I think I was already vaccinated at the point, too, which is even worse, And I was like, what am I doing with this mask? I should just take it off. And then everybody's got them on, and they're like, all the pressure that I felt on myself. And, every time I would leave the store, I'd be like, dude, you are such a coward. What are you doing? And that was kind of the same thing today. Like, I showed up, I kind of had a game plan. I had a few little drills I wanted to do. The lady comes over, she kind of lines me out, and I just did what she told me to do.
Yeah, but once you push back that first time, and you see the look in her face as she realizes you can't be pushed around like that, she'll probably just recede into the background, and you'll just run the show how you want. But it's that first push that's the hardest one, of course. That's going to take a little testicular fortitude, I guess, is the terminology that was used in the 90s or early 2000s action movies. So you're going to need that. But once you do that and you put that hand up there and say, "This is my fucking show," she's not gonna interfere anymore. She doesn't want that power and responsibility. She just thinks she does. You have to wrest it from her.
Yeah. It's funny, too, because when I think of confronting her or, like, telling her, no, I got my own plan, I think, oh, man, I'm going to offend her. You know what I mean? But, she didn't worry about offending me today. Like, you're going to go up to the guy who volunteered to coach, and you're going to tell him what to do? Like, okay, be prepared to get a little pushback on Wednesday. Right? Because that's the next practice, and I'm planning on doing things my way this time.
If I look, and I'm not telling you what to do here. I would not do that. But what I would say, just my little tidbit of advice: don't think too much about what you're going to say to her, because you're going to fuck it up.
Yeah,
you're going to have this big,
going to come out backwards
scenario. Yeah, you're going to have this scenario all in your head, how things are going to go down, and then you're going to get there, and the actual person's going to be in front of you. Then just let it go. It's okay to kind of be a little bit of a douchebag. Just let that douchebag go, and she'll go away or she won't, and then you'll just live in the moment. Those kids that championship's too fucking important to allow this woman to meddle in your affairs.
No, it really is, and it's interesting being in this part of my life now, where I'm taking kids to soccer and stuff like that, and just seeing all, like, I don't know, I guess these people are all my age, but I just feel like they're way older than me. I don't know what it is, but they show up with all their gear, and they're, everybody's got those, like, collapse, the chairs that they tote around and stuff, and
you'll get used to it.
They're coolers and whatever. It's just, here we are.
So, yeah, that's where you are, and it's going to be a bumpy ride. I've only had a couple of experiences with that because, frankly, my kids don't give a shit about sports. They've played 1 year, and I was in part of that deal because a lot of the parents were older, some were younger, but they're all involved in, like, tons of sports, and they have tons of kids, so they've been doing this for years upon years, and it's just jarring to see it. How accustomed they are to it every weekend, the practices during the week, and how into it they get, and it's just, oh, God damn it, I can't do that. But I hope it goes well for you. Maybe you can just let the kids have fun. Just let them get out there and have a ball. Kick it. Yeah. Kick it.
Yeah. Well, if I can, just one more little. So on Saturday we actually had a game. So this was our first practice after our first game. But the first game, so I have two kids playing basically. But my first actual coaching experience, my younger kid who is 4, their coach asked for a little help. There I am helping. And so they split the teams up in half. I got, like, the 3 experienced kids, 4-year-olds who I guess had played before. And they put us against some other team that had some experienced kids. And he's like, yeah, make sure to, like, rotate them out if they, whatever. And I totally forgot about rotating them out. And anyway, for 10 minutes, my experienced kids just dominated these other kids.
Dominated.
These other 4-year-olds. These 4-year-olds were crying on the other team. It was something to see.
Good.
It was something to see.
They need to experience loss immediately in life. They need to get used to that because it's going to be eating shit for the rest of their fucking life in one capacity or the other. So it's good to go ahead and introduce them to that right off the bat.
Yeah.
There can't be all winners. And I'm not going to go down that cliched path, but it's not bad for them to know that there are people that are better than them at certain things, and they can train if they want to, but in the end, they probably won't be as good. Yeah. I like the fatalistic view. A little nihilism. Speaking of kids, how about this segue, huh?
Oh. We doing this one?
I guess we can.
Yeah, let's go right into it. So
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. The Afghanistan one.
The dead kids that we killed.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, so
I didn't do it.
That's a great transition, but so this is quite a story, but so during the pullout, I think it was. Let me see. I want to say it was like the end of August. So we did a whole podcast about it, but it was crazy, frantic pullout going on, and at one point there was a suicide bomber that showed up around the airport, ended up killing, I believe, 13 United States military personnel and a lot of civilians there as well. And then a few days later, maybe a day later, there was a report about a van full of ISIS-K operatives that was droned and wiped off the face of the earth. And a lot of reports went around. The Department of Defense. I mean, everybody was questioning about it. And all the news stories for the next few days was really positive about this drone strike. And I believe it was actually the New York Times that started kind of either getting some word from Afghanistan, or something came up to where they actually reported that it wasn't ISIS-K fighters that got droned. It was actually a family, a van full of 10 civilians, Afghanistan civilians, and I believe 7 of those were children. And so there's an investigation going on, and the Department of Defense is looking at the right person to run this investigation and get to the bottom of what happened, how did this happen, and so on. Yeah, it's an amazing story. And let me ask you, the first question I have for you, Mike, do you think if this story, like the New York Times hadn't looked into it, or if this story was not uncovered somehow, do you think they would have ever come clean about this?
No, of course not. They don't come clean unless they get caught. But luckily, in modern times, there's so much media, and there's so many different people, and there's so much access. And people suck at a lot of things now that they used to be really good at, like hiding shit and covering things up. So yes, they would have definitely not come forward with the story. And I'm not trying to get off the rails here. I want to stay on this track. But how many kids are on a soccer team?
Oh,
on the field.
Yeah, so
You're a coach.
Yeah, I'm a coach. My youngest has there's 10 on her team. But they play 3-on-3, and then my oldest, the 6-year-old plays 4-on-4. No goalies yet.
No, oh, wow, that's fucked up. That's a different thing altogether. But okay, so basically an entire soccer team of kids was killed by our government, and then they tried to kind of wash it away and cover it up, even though they said they weren't trying to cover it up. They were kind of trying to gather information. And Rand Paul famously just asked the Blinken the other day, shouldn't you get all the information first before you blow up a car with a Predator drone? And apparently that's not the way that we do it. We just blow shit up, and then we kill. We do this all the time, because I Googled this right before we started talking about it. Just as biased as Google is now, that you have to sift through that information. And when you type in kids killed by Predator drone, you don't just get that story. You get dozens of stories, because we do it all the time. It's just commonplace now.
Yeah. Well, let me actually. I want to start off by. I don't know. This feels kind of weird, but defending your stance on a lot of things, because a lot of time you talk a lot about the news and how you can't really trust the news, and things like that, and how the news is basically just what they tell us it is, or whoever they are. And I don't know. I feel like I can be a little more trusting, where I don't know. Maybe not about everything, but kind of.
What would lead you to trust them?
No, I know what you mean, but and then we get emails and texts and stuff from people that listen, and we're thankful for everybody who listens and stuff like that. Where, I think a lot of people actually say that, man, that's a pretty not negative, but that's a rough way to go through life, where you just don't believe anything you read. But when this story really kind of highlighted that for me, where these. I saw a montage, a day or two ago of all the news stories, CNN, Fox, MSNBC, where there is some talking head on there that seems to know what they're talking about, that's going on and on about this drone that killed these ISIS-K fighters, and how this was a well planned mission, and how we followed them, and we knew that they were there, and they had a van full of explosives, and they were ready to go, and when we struck them there was a secondary explosion and all this kind of stuff. I mean, person after person, channel after channel. And for somebody at that time to say, well, how do we know it's ISIS-K? You would have been looked at like, dude, like, it's true. And then it comes out that it's not true. It's, man, it's such a horrible story, but, I don't know, man. It's awful.
So I guess what you're kind of getting at there is how I can have an outlook or a view of why I don't trust these sources. And look, there's lots of instances of why I don't trust a particular source or any source. And the reason I don't is not because I don't think that they're all actively trying to deceive me. I think that they're human beings who have really fucked up memories and fucked up perceptions based on their own bias one way or the other. And then sometimes they're actively trying to deceive you. But a lot of times, if you tell your child right now a story, and then she goes to tell her sister a story, there's going to be slight details that have been altered by her brain. Now, she may have not consciously decided to alter those details. It's just the way it came out. And by the time it gets down, famously, 4 or 5 people down, the whole story can be altered just by the placement of a few words. Now, you take that and you go all the way back through history, and all the time that you have to, if you read about Greek history or Roman history, Tacitus or Herodotus or however you want to pronounce their names, or if you even want to bring those guys up, well, then you only have one source. So you say, or 2 or 3 sources that kind of jive with one another, and you say, okay, that's got to be history because that's all we have. But we live in an era that is constantly documenting everything, and it's documenting different things from different angles. And we live in an era of technology that is so over the top that you can't even really tell what is fiction and what is reality if they don't want you to. So yeah, I would like to be able to believe it when somebody tells me something. And now, like, even when I'm scrolling through social media and I see something that looks a little fishy to me, I generally will try to go look it up. But now you were once able to do that fairly effectively, fairly easily, to go look something up and you say, Thomas Jefferson said this. And you're like, that doesn't sound like something Thomas Jefferson would say. He and I used to hang back in my head back in the 90s when I'd read shit. Now I just, scroll through social media. But then you go look it up and you type in the quote. But now if you try to do that, the search engines are so biased, you might have to scroll through 4 or 5 pages before you find something that actually validates something one way or the other. And then you'll have one guy saying one thing and then another guy saying another thing. So it's very hard to sift through the information, because I don't think that our society and our evolution up to this point has equipped us to know this much about everybody else on the planet and to hear them constantly in our minds, constantly in our ears telling us one thing or the other. And governments, they didn't evolve as quickly as the technology did. They're used to covering up shit for decades and decades and decades. But now they don't even bother. Because like this one, when it came out that they killed these people, they're like, whoops, sorry about that. Yeah, sucks. But anyway, get your jab. And how about that? Are you ready for some football? That's pretty much it. And it's just going to blow over and nothing's going to happen to Biden.
Yeah. So let's see. So I guess if you were to, accidentally, kill a van full of people, what do you think? I mean, what do you think would happen to you? I think that's pretty obvious. I guess there's really no consequences for this kind of. I mean, I guess it's like, we're. I mean, because technically, I guess we're not at war anymore, but
we're always at war.
Yeah, we're always at war, but I guess this investigation is going to figure out who did something wrong, and I guess that person will be punished for taking 10 lives, right?
No. I mean, I know that's a rhetorical question, because when you punish someone, when you catch them in the act or you find them guilty in a court of law, you have the power to enforce some kind of penalty. But who has the power to enforce a penalty on a president? Well, it would be Congress. But Congress is controlled by the Democrats, and it's always a team. It's not about individuals and their ideas or ideals. It's a team. So as long as that team is in Congress, nothing is going to happen to Joe Biden unless the country actually stood up as one. All the people who said that they're actually for liberty, they're for truth, they're for justice, and I sound so patriotic right now. If they all actually stood up and said, you know what, that's an atrocity of war, that's murder, and then they demanded it, Congress would comply, not because they thought it was right, but because they just want to stay in office and stay in power. And that maybe that's a cynical way to look at things, but I'm sure it's an absolutely accurate one. So yeah, but we're not going to do that because we all have our team. Everybody has to be on a team. Even if you don't want to be on a team, you're pushed one way. If you don't want to be on a team, you're automatically on the right side. That's the way it looks to me in this day. If you don't want to be on a team, you're automatically right. So you got to pick a team, and the team's not going to turn on itself.
Yeah, it's this. I mean, I know these drones have been around for a while, but it is interesting the way we're at war now, I guess, where we take these strikes and stuff, and I mean, God forbid that ever happens over here, where there's just some. I mean, because I guess we're just patrolling over there in the Middle East, and there's a few countries we can kind of patrol over, and if we want to take somebody out, then we take them out, right? Is that just? I guess that's how it works over there now.
We just do what it. Yeah, apparently. I mean, I'm sure there's semantics involved with that, but apparently, just whoever we want, and then we just shoot them with a missile, kill a family and kill some wedding. We love wedding parties. We're always inviting ourselves to these foreign weddings because that's when all the family gets together. And you're like, I know the guy's there. His daughter's getting married. So yeah, we're going to kill his daughter and the groom and all the wedding party and all the children, but at least we get this guy. And that won't piss anybody off for the future. But yes, I mean, I'm just looking back at some stats, and everybody can look this up. During Obama's 8 years in office, he had 1,878 drone strikes. That seems like a lot. That seems like a bit. So you could say that this the ruler of the free world, the beacon of hope and justice, and yes, we can, killed. If it's only one per, that's 2,000 people. But of course, it's not one per. Sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 150. So however you want to do that math. And then I'm sure Trump only had 4 years to do it, but I think he upped the numbers. He was. We don't ever hear about that unless we really, really fuck up, or it gets out that we fucked up. But it happens all the time. So if you say there are 1,878 drone strikes within an 8-year period, so that's what, 200 a year, something like that. I'm sure they don't all equal out and average out, but it averages out a couple hundred a year, whatever it was. So yeah, it's pretty much every day that we're killing someone around the world with no declaration of war, no real oversight, and we only say oops when we get caught.
Yeah. I thought of that a little bit when when Trump was president, they killed the guy who was like the Iranian, one of their generals or something. I think it was like
that was bold.
Soleimani, I think was his name. I forgot, but I think it was Soleimani. Yeah. And so he was in a car. I think he might have been like in Iraq, or somehow they had some intel, and he was in a car. I think like 3, 4, or 5 other people in the car with him, and they just they droned the car. I remember at the time thinking, man, if you're like the taxi driver, and you're just some innocent bystander in that car. I mean, I guess the good news is they wiped off this horrible murder is off the face of the planet. And yeah, tough for you and your family. But I mean, like you said before, war is ugly, and stuff like this happens, and it's brutal, and you gotta do what you gotta do, I guess.
But we're not at war with them.
Yeah, that's true. You're just not
at war with anyone.
You're just a taxi driver picking up somebody who needed a ride.
Just trying to get through the day, having to stop to. Maybe you're a devout Muslim, stopping to pray 5 times a day and praying to your God, who apparently is not going to stop a missile. But then you just want to go home to your family at night. That's what you want, whether it's a great relationship or a bad one. You get those screaming rugrats running around, but you can't wait to see them. The snot-nosed little punk asses. And then you just drop off this general at the airport, and then over the horizon. You can't even see it coming because it's coming so fast. And then the drone comes in at 400 or 500 miles an hour, however fast it is now. Who really knows these days? Comes in and it fires its missile, and you barely heard anything, and then your brain is obliterated, just disintegrated, and everything you were and everything you will be is gone. And we just kind of say, oh, well, that's just war, right? Well, it's not war, because war was not supposed to be that way. This is just a unilateral action from a murderer. And people say, well, perhaps it's a necessary murder. That's just the way things are done. Maybe you're right, but it's still murder. However you want to put it, it's still killing someone and killing a lot of other people who had nothing to do with it. So you can take that however you like.
It's interesting, too.
BTK.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say BTK, one of the most famous serial killers of all time. He didn't kill that many. He's only documented 10, but he had some really gruesome ones. He went to prison for the rest of his life for killing 10 people. Joe Biden went to, Delaware for the weekend and rode his bike.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because, I was just about to say, there's serial killers who have been convicted who, depending on the state that they live in, will never be executed. And, I guess we have decent intel on, before we do, obviously, things happen, right? But, you would think we have decent intel on the people who we're about to kill. Let me shift gears just a little bit because, so in my previous life, I had to be involved in some, incident investigations if something went wrong or whatever. When they talk about we're going to have an investigation, we're going to hire a third party, some so-and-so to come in, look at all the facts, and write a report. How much do you trust that?
Well, you've been in it. How effective was it? It just depends on the people that are in it. And most of the time, the people who are in it are lifelong doing that. And they already have an idea of what they want it to be. And they warp the narrative to make it fit. You know that from doing it yourself and having to be told to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's anything that'll kill your faith about an investigation than actually doing investigations and stuff, because you're 100% right. It's all about the people who are involved, and who knows what this team's going to look like, but the guy who's appointing the investigation is one of the guys who I think was actually involved, Lloyd Austin. He's like the defense whoever. I don't know his actual title, but I think he had some sort of... He was in the loop at least before they did this drone strike, I would think.
Yeah.
And now
he's really going to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, now you're going to handpick who's going to look into this. So, anytime I hear about these investigations, I always just think about that, and I don't know. Hopefully they'll get to the bottom of it.
Anytime I hear anything that has to do with a human being, and I know some people have remarked that I say human weird, but I'm just going to keep saying it that way. I know I don't pronounce the H. Sorry, I say human. But anytime anything involves a human, just go back to that little kid who told that lie. Or go back to the people you went to high school with and those fucking morons. That's who's out there right now. That's who's running the country and going through all these processes, and some of them have learned to do amazing things and they have a particular set of skills, but they still have to sit down and take a shit and a piss, and they're probably not any smarter than you are, and if they are, it's just negligible. And they're not any more capable. When they go to click on the Excel spreadsheet, they probably can't remember how to do the formula. Then they got to Google it. It's all these little things, all these little foibles. People have an idea that someone is very competent, but that's actually very hard to find. more often than not, you just find somebody who can barely get by. And those people just maintain throughout their entire life. And if they stay there long enough, then they get in these positions of power, making all these decisions for the rest of us. And God bless them, because anybody who gets put into these positions is probably going to fuck it up. Now, you do have some shining stars, but normally they're too honest. They're too, they're not focused on trying to achieve a goal. They're just trying to get to the truth of the matter or trying to do the right thing. So they're not actually going to succeed. You very rarely see that. If you look back at our last 3 presidents, you can kind of see a trend there. So just bear that in mind when you're listening to the news, when you're watching a war, when you're talking to an author, when you're talking to anyone, that it's just a person that's been particularly trained, sometimes not well, to do a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. I encourage anybody to go out there and see if they can find. I'm going to try to find it. We can put it in the show notes or something. The montages of the different talking heads, and even like the secretary, the press secretary for the Pentagon. I forgot what his name is.
Oh, geez.
But he was getting
stammering moron.
Yeah, he had several. He was asked about it several times, and I mean, just matter of fact, and
Nah.
And somebody was like, so, because I guess this guy, he was either in the room or he saw a video, and they were like, so there was actually a secondary explosion? And technically there was.
Sure was.
Apparently there was they said there was a propane tank or something nearby that exploded as well. And when you go back and you watch them, it's actually like, it makes you just think anything. This guy is capable of lying about anything. Because I actually think he knew he was lying about it way before any of this stuff came out, and it just shows. And those are kind of funny anyway. You got one guy or Jen Psaki or whoever that are answering all these questions. They're getting grilled every day by the media, or kind of grilled. And they're just there, just like, ducking and diving and trying to answer the best they can. And is that really the best way to get any kind of information? Oh, God.
Well, no, but they're not going to give you any information. They're just going to give you bits and pieces that doesn't harm them at all. They're never going to tell you anything that's harmful to them. Why would they do that? They're in power. People in power don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
it's a grim world out there. Let's not get too carried away with the sadness, though, down with the sickness, so to speak. I'm still stuck in the early 2000s.
Yeah. No, we'll see what happens. I'll definitely be interested to see the investigation findings.
That'll
see who's going to be
conclude 2 years from now.
Yeah, who's going to be held responsible, and figure out what exactly happened, what went wrong, and did they follow the procedures? Right? Did they follow the letter of the law?
I'm sure there's a deviance there somewhere along the way. There's no way that could happen if they followed the proper procedures and protocols that have been placed.
Yeah.
So they're definitely fucked up somewhere. It's not the system's fault, but the system is written by people too.
Yep. That's right, man.
Speaking of systems. Well, hi, folks. Hope you're still listening. I wanted to put this at the end of the podcast. I didn't want to sell out to the man, even though we've got our first big-time sponsor. Pfizer. Pharmaceuticals. Yeah, reached out to us. Wanted us to plug their products. They wanted us to use our power as big-time social media influencers to go and get the word out about some of their lovely products. I mean, sure, they make the most popular vaccine in the world for that deadly pandemic that's been going about, that's been completely and utterly crushed by this lovely company that made $19 billion or so far this year, as opposed to only $8 billion last year. They're doing quite well. It's actually, they're projected to make about $33 billion this year, maybe more. Who knows? Get all these boosters out there. It's a long-term solution for our deadly pandemic. But, they don't just make the vaccine, the best vaccine. They don't just make the best vaccine. They also make Aromacin, Athrotech, Atgam, Atracurium Becylate, atropine sulfate, azithromycin. You might know that one. Azolfadine. That's a good one. I'm on the A's. There's some other ones. Then there's B's. They make lots of stuff. Let's see. C's. I'm looking on the C's. Trust me, this is all completely legit. They sent me this product listing. Calin. Calcium. They make calcium chloride? That's interesting. Camptosar. Carbocaine. Carboplatin. Cardura. Cardura XL. You don't want to be a pussy and just take the Cardura. You want the Cardura XL. The Cava Reject. Okay, they make a lot of shit. But most importantly, they make the vaccine. And don't be a goddamn Luddite. Don't be a guy who's living in the past. Don't be a guy who's worried about your freedoms. Your freedoms don't fucking matter. Go get yourself jabbed. Get yourself double jabbed. Even though this is a commercial for Pfizer, don't forget to go get the J&J and the Moderna. And if you're flying abroad, go ahead and get jabbed with AstraZeneca. But mostly Pfizer, even though it's the hardest to maintain temperature. But I'm sure the temperature has been maintained worldwide. I don't know. I'm no scientist. I'm just trying to read this copy they didn't provide because they're not really a sponsor. But we appreciate you listening anyway. And Pfizer appreciates you listening. And they really appreciate the fact that your tax dollars pay them for their products. Have a good day.
No top hits. Neighbors think it's obnoxious. I'm sorry, Mrs. Anderson, but damn, you gon' have